Hello, welcome to Sheepdog Says. I'm Sheepdog, and today's video is a reaction to a comment that Mr. Ribu, R-I-B-U, left on one of my videos the other day, asking how on earth I can remember so many things from my childhood. It's a good question, to be honest. I don't really know why I remember so many certain things that come up, but maybe it's because I've always been a bit of a storyteller about stuff. I always have raconted, so a lot of these stories have never left my mind because they've always been embarrassing stories or silly things that have happened, so I've probably refreshed them over the years. I'd like to think, I'm pretty sure none of them have kind of deviated from what I remember happening. I don't know how I'd know that, really. Sometimes people will bring stuff up and we'll debate about whether it was the way I remember it or they remember it and that sort of thing. But no, interestingly, there are loads of things that I do remember from school time and that sort of thing that are just really vivid in my head. I always thought I had quite a bad memory, but really, I mean, I can go back quite far. I was thinking about it tonight. I was just trying to put myself to the test of what things I can vividly remember, or at least picture. Now, I think the earliest thing I can remember, really putting my mind to it, is going to visit my mum when she just had my sister. I said my daughter, then that would have been confusing. I remember walking in, so it can't have been a hospital. It doesn't. In my memory, it doesn't look like what I'd imagine a hospital would look like back then. But I remember going in to a room. So I was with either, I think it was my nan and granddad. They walked me to a door. I went in, and my mum was laying there in a bed, and she kind of looked like someone would, and was just, you know, her hair was a bit of a mess. She looked like she was hot and bothered. You know, put in context to it as an adult now, it was mid-August. It was, she'd just given birth, you know, and I came in to see them. And I remember that. I don't remember anything else about it. I just remember seeing my mum. And it's not the sort of thing that I think I could imagine, because I wouldn't imagine her looking young like she did then. There weren't pictures of it. It's not something that someone's told me about. I just remember going in, and I assume, I mean, my mum and dad might watch this and go, you never came into the hospital. But I have this memory that I think is real of going in, and it might not have even been just after my mum had given birth. I doubt it was, but she just looked hot and like she's worn out from having a busy time of it. Me adding adult context to the image doesn't really do it justice. I just remember seeing my mum in a hospital bed in this odd building that didn't seem like any other building. So I'm kind of adding it together. I was that age, so it must have been when she was born. I don't remember my mum being in hospital otherwise. Another one from that era, and I guess it's quite monumental for, I would have been 2, actually. I'd have been just turned 2, like the weekend that she was born, because my sister's birthday is 3 days before mine. So that is really early. And that's probably why it's only like a snapshot. But I also remember being in the living room of our old house, and her like Moses basket type thing that she slept in was on the windowsill, and she was in it, and as a kid it seemed ridiculously high up, but like as an adult it would have been barely above waist height, this windowsill. We had these really deep windowsills that you could have put a Moses basket or cotton over wide and deep, and she would have been put on there because it was like a table in itself. And I just remember again this still of just looking up. I remember it because the sun was coming through the windows and it made it look really golden and bizarre. And I just remember thinking it seemed like my sister's in there, sort of thing, and that's why it sticks in my head as a really weird image. I can't remember much more about that period. I see pictures and I'm like, I did not know my granddad or my dad had a beard. I did not know this, that, or the other. I remember certain bits about our house changing as I got older. I remember my dad taking a door that we had and turning it into a wall. And I kind of remember being a kid and being shut out of the kitchen when the door was there. And I'm pretty sure the door went before we were maybe 5 or 6. So I remember being sort of shut out of the kitchen because they were cooking and it was too steamy or whatever. I remember being, it must have been 3 or 4. And my parents we used to have this annoying track record of my parents would try and make jelly, and they had this lovely, it was like I suppose if you turn it upside down, it was like it had a cloudy, bobbly bottom to it, and then it was straight, and you'd fill it with jelly mix, and you'd lay it there, and then it would set. And every time my parents tried to make jelly, I'd be so fascinated by it that I'd want to know whether the jelly had set, but I was far too short to be able to look in and see, so I'd always try and reach up. And I know it happened more than once, but I specifically remember knowing I shouldn't do it, knowing I really shouldn't check, I really shouldn't touch it. but deciding I had to know whether the jelly was set. And I remember pulling this thing and it just going everywhere because it was just liquid. It couldn't have even been, I mean, jelly takes what, an hour to set now? So it couldn't have even been like 20 minutes that had been there. My mum and dad were obviously like, no. But I did that so many times as a kid. It seems a bit ridiculous. You think I'd remember more of them, to be fair. I also remember being obsessed with, we had a box of Thomas the Tank Engine lollies, and they were put up high on a shelf. And then for the rest of my childhood, I assumed they were still up there, whereas they were probably just got down and handed out over time. But in my head, that's where they were, and I'd never seen them again. And I remember checking in this pot once because I thought, well, I know they're not up there. I don't remember what happened to them, but I've always had this thought. So I remember climbing up and looking in this jar when I was much older to see whether there was just going to be any old lollies in there that I wouldn't have eaten. I just wanted to know whether they were there. I remember, which must have been 3 or 4, being at play school. I used to go to this play group next to the school I went to growing up. All of my family, all of my mum's nieces and nephews went to the same Catholic primary school in Essex. So all my oldest friends went there too. And I remember going to this play school next to it that was like in a church connected to it. It wasn't the church we went to, but it was the church connected to the school, just by like literal buildings. The church owned the school farther away. And they had a play group in there. And it was all these people called Auntie whatever. And I remember there's a lady called Auntie Jan. I don't know why I particularly remember her name, but so there's a fly in front of me there. And I remember, I'm pretty sure, now I don't know whether I'm morphing two memories together, but I'm pretty sure it was my friend now. So I'm 32 now, and I got a friend, Calvin, who I've known since that play school. And I'm pretty sure it was him that came in one day, and we were talking or whatever. And I told him, I'll show him where the puzzles are kept, I think it was. And I opened this cupboard and rooted through and got some stuff out, and we were looking at items, and I think he was like, oh, I like that one, so I gave it to him. And then the aunties, as they were called, came out, and I'd basically emptied this cupboard, and they went ballistic, and I had to go stand by a wall. I didn't punish him. I had to go stand by a wall, and they used to do this bit where everyone would congregate in the middle at the end, and I was standing in one corner all like shameful, and there was like other people dotted in other corners while they were all singing whatever. And I remember snapshots of each of it. I don't remember the full scene like it was a long, drawn out 15 minutes. I just remember telling him I knew where the stuff was, telling him, like, going through the cupboard. I vividly remember the cupboard. I vividly remember being told off, and I vividly remember standing by the wall while all the singing's going on. And that's really bizarre, 'cause I don't remember anything else from being there. There was a video my mum and dad have of my cousin and my sister when they were there, and it's mad to think how old that video was, because it's one of those where it's filmed, everything's slightly faster in places on it and stuff like that. It's mad to think that video would be over 30, or be about 30 years old now. I wonder if my mum and dad have still got it, because it seems mad to think there'd be videos of them, and they were only there 2 years after me. So it'd be the same era. So I guess that's probably why I remember some of the names, because I remember watching the video as an older kid. I doubt that would even work anymore. Who has a VCR these days? It's a shame, isn't it? I remember being in the reception class at school, and my teacher asking me if my mum was picking me up. And I said something stupid like, no, she's not picking me up. She can't drive. She failed her test driving through a red light. And my teacher's just laughing. And I don't know that my mum would ever remember that happening, because she wasn't there. It was only me and my teacher. I remember that because I remember my teacher saying, like, you shouldn't have said that. I didn't need to know that. Like, you don't embarrass your mum like that. And I don't think it ever came up, but I really remember this must have been, God, it would have been like December, I don't even know what year it would have been, 89, 90? I can't do the maths off the top of my head. So 1990 probably. Just in this class. I mean, I've seen pictures of the class since, and it does bring back all these memories of being in it, but I specifically remember that conversation because it was like, oh, really? And trying to be all like sweet about it, but I'd completely stitched my mum up, and the teachers would have known it because, as I said, it was a church school, so everyone knew everybody. I remember having a little cassette player that I could play Thomas the Tank Engine tapes on, and getting really angry with our next door neighbour because I wanted to sit and listen to my Thomas the Tank Engine tapes, and they were having a party in their back garden listening to whatever pop music from the early 90s there was, and I was like livid. I just wanted to chill in the garden with my blackcurrant listening to Thomas the Tank Engine. And then I had the ingenious, which I'm amazed about this idea, because it came from what must have been a 5 or 6 year old at best. But I decided, I got some blank tapes, and I put the tape recorder next to the TV to record Thunderbirds so that I could listen to them back as an episode of Thunderbirds on tape whenever I wanted, because I thought that would be genius. And I remember getting really angry because while it was recording the TV, it would record anybody else in the room talking, and my sister and my mum kept having a conversation, and I kept being like, shut up! And then when you listen to the tape back, you can't really hear them talking, but all you could hear is me just getting really angry. They'd be like, I don't know, the dad, I can't remember his name now, I want to say John Tracy, just chatting to one of the other Thunderbirds, and then me just being like, will you be quiet, stop talking, going into an absolute hissy fit. I don't remember ever hearing that back other than that particular night. Those tapes ended up being like all sorts of, we used to have our own radio station as kids do and stuff like that. I'd love to dig them out, because I'm pretty sure we had a tape where we'd recorded a thing. I remember there being one of my cousins singing a song, and he died when we were young. And some of my vivid memories of being young are finding out he'd died, or finding out my aunt had died and stuff like that, which is a bit more depressing. But there is a video of him singing "Everywhere You Go, You'll Always Take the Weather With You." And I remember hearing that years after it died and being like mind-blowingly sort of shocked. But there was loads of them. They were lovely, just recording these tapes of us singing songs or talking or whatever. I wish we had all of them, because it'd be great to just hear back and think what we were like in the sort of mid-90s and what it all was. That must have been early 90s. It'd have been before 95-ish. Other than that, I don't remember that much. Like, I remember someone asked me about primary school, and I don't really remember loads. I remember stuff from being in the older years, junior years. I remember punching someone in the face because he threatened me, and having his respect forever. Then I was a properly wimpy kid who cried all the time. And this kid once started on me, and I just walloped him in the face, and he tried to shrug it off as, oh yeah, my tooth was loose, you didn't punch it out. But he was nothing but respectful for the rest of the time we were at school. I mean, looking back, he wasn't even that tough. He was just taller and fatter than everybody else, so he thought he was strong. I have a vivid memory of being 9 and my cousin Jack was born. He's like, I don't even know how old he is now, he must be 20 something. If I was 9, I don't even think about it, 22, and I just vividly remember, again, it's all like me being somewhere and someone getting a phone call, pretty much, or me watching TV and someone getting a phone call. It's weird how the brain just triggers, starts recording when stuff happens. I mean, I vividly remember telling my mum when Princess Diana died, because I went down to watch like Nickelodeon or whatever on TV, and every channel was just the news, and I remember just shouting out, "Mum, Princess Diana's dead," and her being like, "Oh my God, what the hell?" and freaking out and running down to put the news on, and me just thinking, I just wanted to watch Rugrats. Come on, man, like, what's going on? I'm going to wrap it up there because we're at the allotted time, but it's weird, all the stuff, as I'm talking, little bits are popping in, and I'm thinking, I've covered that here, or that's not relevant, or that's a bit random. Just loads of random little snippets that you remember of certain people at certain times, or being told to go and do something, or I remember getting in trouble in year 2 because, I think I've told this on the videos before, but someone had crawled under the door of the toilet, leaving it locked, and I said it wasn't me, and then I got told off and sent out for it, and all this trouble because I'd said it wasn't me. And I remember that because it was so like, I didn't do it. But no, it's been fun talking about random gibberish from childhood, because there's just loads of, all the silly stuff stands out, or all the really major stuff stands out. But I do seem to remember a lot more than I probably thought I did. Or I bet if I put Mr. Ribu on the spot and said, do a video about all your memories, you'd probably have hundreds of them, and you'd realise actually you could do 100 videos about random gibberish that's happened to you. I just am waffling, and that's what I do. Thanks so much for watching anyway. I'm going to wrap up there. Subscribe if you like what you see. Comment, tell me your earliest memories, your favourite memories. I feel like I've done videos like this before. I'm suddenly got this pang in my stomach that I've already done a video about earliest memories. But if I have, go with it. If I haven't, great. Yeah, just watch more. Thanks for watching. Go back through the old lot. Help me boost this. I'm like this close to 220 now. I want to get to 250. I'd love to get to 250 before I went on holiday. That's not going to happen though. That's like 31 new people, which just seems impossible at this point. I need more sharing and retweeting. I think that'll get me going. Anyway, thanks very much. I'm going to stop now. Hope you have a great weekend. I'm worn out. I need a weekend off. We're going to have Summer Fete tomorrow, so maybe we'll do videos around that, depending on how it looks. Thanks for watching anyway. Have a great weekend.